Hi, welcome to Szott Automotive's healthcare overview. Szott Automotive offers five different health plans. Three of them are HMO plans, and two of them are PPO plans. Before we dig into the plans, let's talk about the difference between HMO and PPO. The majority of the employees are on the HMO plans because the overall cost uh, for services and premium are much more reasonable than the PPO plans. With an HMO plan, you're required to pick a primary care doctor, and then if you want to see a specialist, you would need a referral. So, for example, if your back were to hurt, you would go see your primary, and he might look at you and say, "Well, I think you need to see a back specialist." He would then refer you to a back specialist. With the PPO plans, you are not required to have a referral to go see specialists. Although I will say that the specialists are becoming so busy these days that a lot of them are requiring referrals, regardless of whether you have a PPO or an HMO. So the biggest difference between an HMO and a PPO is with a PPO, if you wanted to seek services, like you wanted to go see a specialist at Johns Hopkins University for some rare condition. With the PPO, you could go out of state to one of those places. There would just be out of network, so it would be higher deductible. They usually double the deductible and the co-insurance. So you pay more while you're there, but the PPO does allow you to do that. With the HMO, you would be stuck with specialists inside the state of Michigan. If you're traveling, you can go to an ER or an after-hours clinic for services if you're sick. There's also a online health portal that I'll go over where you can seek doctor's office services through a video phone call. So the plans we have available are the HMO 5000, the HMO 500, the HMO 0, and then the PPO 2500 and the PPO 250. Let's start with the HMO or the HMO 5000. So as you can see, this plan has a $5,000 deductible for an individual and then $10,000 for a two-person or family. Let's kind of set that aside right now and let's go down to what happens if you go to the doctor. So if you need to see the doctor, you're going to go to the doctor and you're going to be charged a $40 office visit copay. If he writes your prescription, you're going to be charged one of the five prescription drug copays below. Starting with tier 1 generics. Any generic drug is going to be $20 or less. Now, 98% of the prescriptions out there have a generic equivalent, so the majority of your prescriptions are going to be $20 or less. In fact, in most cases, all of them will be. If by chance the doctor prescribes something that just does not have a generic, it's a brand name, we have two tiers of brand names. We have the preferred brand names and the non-preferred brand names. With the preferred brand names, you would pay $75. With the non-preferred brand names, you would pay $100. The last two tiers are the preferred specialty and the non-preferred specialty. Those two tiers are very rare. Odds on you coming across one of those are not likely, but those are experimental drugs, new drugs on the market, things that are extremely expensive. These drugs can cost anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000 a month. So in this case, Blue Cross requires you to pay 20%. If it's a tier 4, it would be 20% up to a maximum of $200. So the most you would pay for that drug is $200. If it's a tier 5, it's 20% up to a maximum of $300. Once again, odds are you'll never come across those, but if you do, those are what the costs would be. Now let's go back up to deductible. So first question is, when does deductible come in? So deductible is going to apply to anything that is outside of a normal office visit. So if you go to the doctor and the doctor, you're coughing, he says, I'd like to get an x-ray to make sure you don't have bronchitis. You're going to be charged for that x-ray and all other services like MRIs, any surgeries, broken bones, stitches, things outside of a normal office visit. You're going to be responsible for the first $5,000 of those items. It says $10,000 for a family or two-person, but bear in mind, if you have a family of 5 and one member of the family has to have a surgery, they would max out at the $5,000 deductible. If any combination of the family reaches the $10,000, then the whole family's done with the deductible. So the reason I point that out is that you know that if one member does have to have a surgery in your household, it's not going to be a $10,000 deductible. The most it would be is 5,000. After the deductible, we have coinsurance. Coinsurance is what I like to call cost sharing. So in this scenario, Blue Cross would pay 70% of the bill and you would pay 30. Let's say you've had a surgery and you went through your deductible, you spent your $5,000, and then later on in the year, the doctor wants to send you for an x-ray. And let's say the x-ray is $200. You would pay 30% of that $200, so $60, and the insurance company would pay the remainder. Now, there is no coinsurance max, so the coinsurance would go up to the out-of-pocket max. But let's talk about out-of-pocket max. Out-of-pocket max includes every dollar you spend. So if you buy a prescription drug, if you have an office visit copay, or if you have an ER copay or an urgent care copay, um, they're going to keep track of every dollar you spend, deductible, coinsurance. If at any point in the year you've spent $6,850 out of pocket, everything's free for the rest of the year, including your prescription drugs and everything. This is a stop loss feature that was put in during ACA so that, if you do have something that comes up that requires a lot of prescriptions, a lot of expensive things, that it will have a cap, and after that, everything would be covered. 13.7 for the family, but once again, if one family member reaches the 6850, then they're done. All right, let's move on to the next plan. The next plan is the BCN HMO 500. Now, with this plan, the deductible is only 500 for an individual, 1,000 for a family, and then you can see the coinsurance is only 10%. But the difference between this plan and the last plan is it has a coinsurance max. So if you were to go have a surgery or X-ray, MRI, you would be responsible for the first $500. After that, you would only pay 10% for services like MRIs and X-rays, up to another $500. So if you had a surgery and the surgery was $1 million, let's say, you would pay $1,000. After that, for the rest of the year, the only thing you would pay for would be your office visit copays and prescription drug copays, ER copays. That would be all you would have to pay for. If you needed to have another surgery, it wouldn't cost you anything. They're going to once again keep track of everything you spend. And if at any point you have reached $6,600, then everything's free for the rest of the year. Now, the difference between this 500 plan and the 5,000 plan is that you have a $20 office visit copay, which is less than the last plan, and only a $40 urgent care. Generic prescription drugs are $20 or less. Non or preferred brand names are $40 or less, and non-preferred brand names are $80. So the first three drug categories are a little less than the last one. These preferred specialty and the non-preferred specialty are exactly the same. They're going to be 20% up to $200 and $300. So that's about it for that plan. Let's go on to our next plan. Our next plan is the HMO 0. Now, this plan has a zero deductible. So if you had to have an x-ray or anything, you wouldn't pay any deductible, but it does have $1,000 worth of coinsurance. So in this scenario, if you were to have a surgery or an x-ray or an MRI, you would pay 25% of those services up to $1,000. So once again, if you were to have $1 million surgery and you paid 25% of it, it would only cost you $1,000 because you paid 25% up to $1,000. This plan does have some savings when it comes down to the office visits. You can see they're only $15, ERs at $150, and urgent cares at $30. Out-of-pocket max, once again, is at the $6,600, but we have a more simple drug card. Generics are $10, preferred brand names are $20, and non-preferred brand names and all specialties are $40. So a little more simple drug card. All right, let's move on to our PPO plans. The PPO 2500 has a $2,500 deductible, 5,000 for a family, and then another 20% coinsurance for another 2,500. So $1 million surgery in this scenario would cost you $5,000. The out-of-pocket max is 6,350. You can see the office visits are slightly higher than the PPO or than the HMO 500 and 0 at $30. ER copays 150, urgent care 60, and then we have our three-tier drug card with the generics at 10, preferred brand names at 40, and non-preferred brand names at 80. All right, our last health plan is the PPO 250. This plan has a $250 deductible and then 20% coinsurance for another 2,500. So in this scenario, $1 million surgery would cost you 2,750. It does have an out-of-pocket max of 6350, and then similar office visit copays at 20, ER at 50, urgent care at 20. Prescription drugs are 15, 30, and 60. Now, let's go on and talk about online health visits. Um, you can go on your phone and you can download your smartphone. You can download the Blue Cross of Michigan online visit app. Once you've got this app downloaded, you can push on the button. It will bring up the doctors that are on call. All the doctors that are on the Blue Cross online visit are licensed in Michigan. So they are doctors that have been licensed in the state of Michigan. But it'll list the doctors that are on call at that point. It will show you whether there are people waiting for them or how many people are waiting. You can pick the doctor you like, uh, wait until your appointment comes up, and then do the appointment over the phone. It's like a FaceTime meeting where you're talking to the doctor. He can go over what your issues are, and he can call your prescriptions into the drugstore. The thing I really like about this is if anybody's ever spent time in an after-hours clinic or an ER in the evening, never any fun. And this only costs your normal office visit copay. So in most cases, it's cheaper than going to an after-hours clinic. Um, an example, this is a really good thing to use when you have a kid. My daughter was going on vacation recently, and her son had a little rash on his arms. So the night before, they called up, did an online visit, and were able to get some cream called into the pharmacy. So very convenient, and I highly recommend that you utilize this when you can because it is a time and money saver. That's it for the healthcare review. Now, at the top of the page is my phone number. Um, you can call us here at the office 24/7 if you have questions. So as you're going over this stuff online, if you have questions, pick up the phone. The number's up top, but it's 810-584-7458, and I am extension 1. I'm happy to answer your calls during business hours or even after business hours or on the weekends whenever you have time to sit down and do this. So call us, ask the questions. We're happy to help out. Thank you.